Hello, this is Brian Riches. This is my module for self-assessment. I'm going to go down point by point for all of these and show in my Canvas course what I have. So right here in my Canvas shell, I've got week one finished and week two mostly finished. I'm going to show a couple things from each to demonstrate these. So basically all of these overall get to point one, providing regular and substantive interaction in teaching, learning, and assessments. So all of this goes into that, and so I'll go into a little more detail. So provide total weekly content for each class equaling about 15 hours for this 5 credit course. This is all the instruction. So here for week one, I for a fully online class as well as hybrid classes, I have an introduction to the class and Canvas video. So this is for students who have never used Canvas, and this may be their first college course. This type of video helps them kind of get familiar with Canvas in general, how it works, where to find the grade book, where to find the modules, just how to navigate it simply. So it's a fairly short video, but does go into some of that time towards that 15 hours. And then one of the first assignments they have, actually this should be moved up here, is the instructions. So after they go through that, they have the instructions. And this is actually something I like to email students as well, usually a slightly shorter, less detailed version. So they have all the links to all the requirements for the week. So as you can see in the modules, they have things like the syllabus and the syllabus quiz, the textbook, reading the textbook, having lecture slides, watching a lecture recording, doing a discussion board, and a quiz. These things are all also discussed here in the instructions for every week. So in a fully online course, this is really important. I have these instructions here in Canvas. I also email it to them. So it has a video instruction. So very similar to this video is just me talking about what this week is, what the assignments are, due dates, those kinds of things in a video. And then basically first, second, third, fourth, this is what you need to do throughout the week. So reading the textbook, reading the syllabus, doing syllabus quiz. I'm talking about those out of order right now. And then also how to do the discussion board. So with this, there are links to these different things. So I discuss how they can find them in discussions, modules. I encourage students to use modules primarily, but they can also click the next button. So here's their syllabus, which was one of the first things that I wanted them to read. Talked about downloading that so that they can do that. Next after that is their syllabus quiz. So this is a brief quiz. They can take this as many times as they need to get full credit. Essentially, I want them to know some of the key points here. I'll preview it very quickly. So here, what's the late work policy? When do I respond to emails? What's the name of the book? What are office hours? What is the late penalty for exams? These kinds of things. So that is important for students to know those key critical pieces. So here's again my modules. So at this point now, they've downloaded the syllabus, they've taken the quiz, they've seen the instructions. All of this is probably not too time intensive. The next biggest thing, and probably the biggest time intensive thing, is actually reading the textbook. So in this class, we usually have one chapter. Sometimes we have two shorter chapters in any given week, which really adds to that time for the course. Depending on how quick of a reader a student is, I try to make it so even slow readers, they'll have that 15 hours, and fast readers obviously might be a little quicker. Maybe they are only doing 10 hours of work in a given week. But this textbook is really great in my general psych class. This is actually a OER textbook. So I'll open the website. I've already got this downloaded. So this is the textbook. And so for week one, they've got to read chapter one. So here it is in the web format. I do encourage them to download that. So after they do the textbook download, they also need to look through the slides. So I always provide these slides. They update every semester or so. So with that, these slides are something that they can follow along as they watch through the lecture for the week. So in a fully online course, this lecture would usually be broken up into a couple different pieces with other activities mixed in, whether it be discussion board, a offline or an online activity, something OER usually. For week one, it's really just lecture, like background on psychology, background on what we're going to be doing in the class, and that kind of thing. So for this week, pretty much just a lecture video, but oftentimes I have these chunked. In a hybrid course, I do teach a couple hybrid courses where we have a day in the classroom and then basically a day online. So some of the textbook will be in a video recording. We'll do in-person activities. So sometimes most of the chapter is a lecture recording, and then the in-class time, we're working on papers or doing things, more interactive activities in the classroom. So with that, that is, and then here for week one, the discussion board is pretty easy. It is just an introduce yourself. So I've got clear instructions here about how to go about doing the discussion board. These, especially for an online course, I have these every week. For a hybrid course, some weeks I will have them. And then in a fully in-person course, these kind of discussions are things that we have in class in person. And then after that, they have their chapter quiz. So these chapter quizzes are essentially a review of the reading, a review of the lecture. They're mostly multiple choice, but I also have open-ended questions in them so that students can describe their learning, make connections. So that's a big thing with these. The reflection piece of that, the chapter quiz, just multiple choice. The reflection piece is essentially reflect on what you've learned. How can you apply this to your life? How is this relevant to other courses? Making more connections that way. And so for week one's usually a little bit shorter than other weeks as students get into class sometimes a little bit late, but this is designed to be about 15 hours for a slow reader, maybe 10 hours for a very fast reader with all of these activities. Another thing I really wanted to point out, not all of week 2, but here I still have instructions, lecture slides, instructions to read chapter 2 in the textbook. For this course, we generally go straight through the textbook. There's a couple sections that are out of order, more based on topic, but mostly we're going just straight through the chapter. The main thing I wanted to point out here is actually this question paper assignment. So this is an assignment that we go through for the entire semester. So in week 2, they have one small point assignment for this. They need to turn in their peer-reviewed reference list. But in the end of the class, and I'll open these instructions here. So this is the instructions for the final assignment. So this is also pieces that go towards the final assignment. So how to write a question paper, how to pick a topic is really this first piece. And so that's one thing that we do here in week 2. Finding research is a big thing that we do here in week 2. So the finding a topic, finding references, and then this is more when you're actually writing the question paper. So I show this to students in week 2 to give them a sense or an idea of what we're looking for in the end of the class. But these instructions are a lot more relevant as we get into like week 4, week 5. So also some little quick cheats for APA format. So a really quick reference for students. An example, I even have some pieces of so Purdue OWLs examples from APA formatting. So I can use these. I also have down here an example question paper. So this is basically formatted so students can take this, download this Word document, and well, this one's a PDF, but it is here as a Word document. So they can take this and they can fill in their own name, their own school, their own everything. And so this is actually a question paper that I wrote with correct APA formatting as an example to give them a better sense of what this looks like. In the end, I like it to be about a 2+ page paper of written content. So I've got a title page, then 1, 2, and a little bit more, and then a reference page. So this makes it really clear what in the end we are looking for. And then I also have the rubric here as well as programmed into Canvas for that final assignment as well as the draft assignments, and a little checklist as a quick help. This is not quite the same as a rubric. It does cover some of the same things. So this is a really good example of the kind of work that I like them to do in the class. And so this final paper where they have their title page, 1, 2+ pages of content, and their reference list, this is what we're working towards at the end of the class. For this first or second week, what they are turning in And what they're learning is one, how to find research. How do you find peer-reviewed research in psychology as you're picking your topic? This video goes through how to do that in class. We do that in person. I walk them through actually finding references. Also, here is the main assignment for this week. This question paper one peer-reviewed reference list. So I have an example of what I'm expecting. Oh, and it looks like that link is broken. It was working earlier. But that is okay. I can fix that. So my plan is to have all of chapters or weeks 1, 2, and 3 completely finished and finalized and published before the course actually starts. And I am at least week 1 and 2. So I am probably 70% the way there, maybe 60%. But essentially, this is what they're turning in. Their topic, their references in APA format, and a little note of how this might be relevant to their paper. So these are peer-reviewed sources that they found through the library resources, and this is the main assignment they are turning in this week. So this one, I do need to add its rubric, but for each of these are in steps. And so if I jump back to my syllabus, and maybe just look here, we've got the topic and reference list due in week 2. Then in week 4, we have an outline. So at this point, they've read those research papers. We've talked about how to read research papers, how to pull out information. They're taking notes on them. And then they have a full draft. So this is essentially that full paper by week 8. We do peer review in class. And then we have the final draft of the paper the last day of class. If students do really well on that first draft, there's fewer changes that they need to make for the final draft. If they do not do as well on that first draft, they might have more changes to make for that final draft. But I really try to get them to have as close to perfect paper as they can by that draft 1. This also gives a sense of the kind of chapters that we're going over. Because of holidays and things, sometimes we have to spread chapters over multiple weeks. But hopefully that gives a good sense. I'm going to run through the Module 4 requirements. So hopefully you see how 1 is covered there, providing regular and substantive interaction in teaching, learning, and assessment. So these kinds of, I guess I didn't mention, for discussion boards, I do want them to post by Wednesday and then follow up posts by Sunday for their peers. I also try to go in on either Wednesday or usually Thursday and make replies, continue the conversation, that kind of thing. So that's one way I interact with students. The main way I interact with students as well, especially in an online course, is through things like those weekly emails, announcements. Usually my announcement is very similar to my beginning of a week email and the inbox here in Canvas. So those are some of the ways that I connect with students in fully online courses when it's an asynchronous course. And so hopefully you can see that the amount of work for week 1 and similar for week 2 gets to that 15 hours for the week. Hopefully you can see with number 3 that this is organized with a clear methodology, that we're mostly following along with the chapters in the textbook, and that the assignments build on each other as we're working towards that final research paper. They are doing it piece by piece. They're getting feedback each step of the way. Usually I'm getting that feedback within a week to them on their outline or on their topic and reference list. We also have peer reviews, formal ones of their whole draft of their paper, but we have informal reviews of the topic and reference list in class as well. So whether that is fully online or in-person classes, they're getting feedback from their peers on these as well. So hopefully that you see that gets at number 3. With this, providing clearly written instructions for completion and submission of work and quizzes. Hopefully you can see this example here for the question paper. This is a very extensive document. Again, not all of this is relevant for week 2. Really, it's just pages 1 and 2 that are most relevant for week 2, but this gives a sense, hopefully, of how clear and how focused I have the examples. So this is really clearly written instructions for that assignment, for the quizzes as well. I think I might have that open here. So I've got those clear instructions there. So that is for number 4. Number 5, when is coursework due? Well, those are all listed in Canvas as the due dates. So they're here, they'll come up in students' calendars, but also it is here in the syllabus as well, the week that it's due. So there is number 5, regular opportunities for student-faculty interaction. So that is mostly through the discussion boards where we have the most back and forth interaction in fully online courses. In hybrid and in-person courses, there's obviously time in class meetings, but also through things like assignment feedback. So I try to give as detailed of feedback as I can on those research papers. For most of these students, this is the first time they've written a paper of this length and detail. So I try to give them a lot of feedback on both APA formatting and also how to read and write about research. And then number 7, responding to student questions and email in a scheduled pattern. So this is listed in my syllabus. I should download the actual document here. I list that I generally respond to emails within about 30 hours, except for weekends and holidays. So that's made clear there, as well as in the first video that I have introducing the class. And a lot of that interaction is through the Canvas inbox. I don't have any emails from students yet because I clear out my inbox as quickly as I can. So hopefully that is clear. This was a little longer than I intended, so sorry if I went over things a couple different times, but that is how I run my courses. And like I said, I'll have courses week 1, 2, and 3 completely published and ready to go before the first day of class, and keep adding on to them as the semester goes.